I'm really pleased with how these seafoam trees have turned out. If you follow this simple and easy guide, you can't go wrong. Hi there, and I hope I find you well. I'm Jennifer Kirk, welcoming you up here to the loft on Weir Yard. And today I'm going to be having a go at making something with a kit that I was very grateful to have been given one of the first examples of from Warworld Scenics, who launched this at the Alexandra Palace show. It's a lovely kit, and they do a variety of different ones which give you all the materials that you need to build up a remarkably realistic and resilient tree and be able to get some great results without needing any special tricks or skills. So I'm really looking forward to putting this to the road test and just seeing what results I get. And of course, this is the first time that I've tried building these. It's a completely new method to me as well. So come with me in association with Trainomatic, makers of DCC decoders and accessories that are designed by enthusiasts for enthusiasts, and with additional support provided by TMC, the Model Centre. Check out their comprehensive and fully stocked website at themodelcentre.com. For project ideas, why not look at their airbrush offers at the link in the description and have a go at creating your own weathering and graffiti masterpieces. It couldn't be simpler. I'm really looking forward to having a go with this kit. It really does look interesting, so come with me and let's take a look together. Trees are something that are pretty much a part of every model that we make, but some people do find it quite a challenge. Now, you can buy some ready-made trees, and there's some particularly good ones on the market from places such as Bachman Scenecraft, Woodland Scenics, and a number of smaller suppliers, but that can prove quite expensive. So today, what I'm going to look to do is show you a different method that yields some very good results and is actually quite enjoyable to make. Now, I'm going to be using parts from this particular kit, which is from Warworld Scenics, and it gives you all of the different materials that you need to utilize this method. However, there's nothing in this box that you can't buy separately from a number of different suppliers. So I'm just using this for convenience, but depending on what your model hobby store sells, you can make up all the parts in this kit from a number of different manufacturers and sources. Inside the kit, we've got a number of different items. The most obvious are these plastic tree armatures. We've also got a bag of lichen here and a number of different scatters. The other ingredient here in this box is a product known as sea foam or seagrass. It's a natural product, it's a real plant, and it's chosen for the fact that it resembles some really great and fine tree branches when used in a number of different hobby scales. But unlike other methods, which often try and use these as a whole piece to represent a tree in and of itself, what we're going to be doing is taking parts of this and parts of this, and we're going to build a tree utilizing the best of both methods. It follows a similar approach to how a wireframe tree might turn out, but without all of that faffing with making the wire armature, which is something that I know a lot of people do struggle with. Our starting point for this method is one of these plastic tree armatures. The size and shape doesn't really matter for the technique that I'm about to show you. What I'm actually going to do is take these wire cutters, and yeah, you're seeing this right. I'm going to actually trim off all of these. We're just leaving a tiny little stump. And you might think that I'm absolutely mad for doing this, but there is a reason. What we actually want to do is to create a very strong armature for a different product to represent the leaves and branches. we're left with what is actually not much more than a twig, but it's quite strong. And you can see there that this will put up with a lot of punishment. It's also got a great thickness to represent the trunk of a tree. And once I put it in there, out of the way, I'm going to bring in sea foam. These are a plant that is native to Scandinavia, and you can even grow it yourself if you so choose, but I find it much more practical to buy it in big boxes. And you can make some really nice trees from these just using choice pieces picked for their propensity to look just like a tree naturally. But they can be quite fragile, and you can also find that all your trees start to look a little bit the same because of the natural shape of the seafoam. But it is a brilliant product for representing trees on any layout. What I'm going to do is just pull out a few pieces of this, and it's something that anybody who's worked with this product knows, that you always end up with a whole load of small pieces right down in the bottom of the box, and you think, what a waste, what can I do with those? Well, actually this method is perfect for doing something with them. What I'm going to do is just prepare a few little pieces of this. I am actually going to just cut it up. And what I'm trying to do is produce small pieces that I can use readily, glued onto this plastic armature to represent the tree branches of a much more complex tree. The end result won't look anything like a typical seagrass tree, and at the same time it also won't look anything like a tree that you would normally make from these plastic armatures if you chose to just glue foam onto the branches to represent the foliage of a tree. This is something that may take a little bit of trial and error, and also if you use really cheap super glue, as I've chosen to do, you may also find that it takes a little bit longer than might be desired for it to grab and just stay in position. But persevere, and certainly the results that you'll see at the end are well worth the effort. As we build it up, it's easy to just rotate the armature in the clamp and just fill in all the areas until you've got a nice organic and realistic looking tree. Once we get to this stage, what we need to do is do a light spray over it with something like a textured paint. Now I've chosen this just because it was a textured paint that was readily available in a local store to me, but there's a number of different brands on the market, and really the quality of the paint doesn't matter. It's all about picking something that's about the right colour to represent the bark and the woodier part of the tree. Misting over with this from a distance of maybe 12 to 18 inches and doing it nice and lightly so it doesn't clog the branches will uniform this whole tree armature. And I'm going to go away and do this outside in a well ventilated area, and then I'm going to bring it back and you'll see the difference. The transformation with a very light spray over with that textured brown paint has really made the difference. You can see that the plastic armature in the centre is now muted down. It's not shiny anymore. And all the seafoam branches that we super glued on, those too have taken on a similar colour. This really does start to look like a real tree in miniature. And the other thing as well, which the paint does, is actually strengthen the model too. It does this by helping to stick that seafoam together, but also gives it extra strength to some of the very spindly branches, coating them in the paint and just stopping them from being prone to cracking off. The next stage is going to be adding the scenic scatter on the top, and I've chosen some material here. You can see it's almost like dust. We choose a colour that's appropriate for the tree that we're building, and pay very close attention here. Different species of trees are different colours, and depending on the region that you're modelling, you can have some very different coloured trees. It's also the case that you can choose now whether you want to model a tree in winter or any other season, simply by choosing appropriate levels of foliage and maybe some colours too. Some autumnal reds would really look great on this. Similarly, if we take this bare tree and use a more white snow scatter, we can make a tree that's deciduous in the middle of winter, that has snow on the branches but no leaves to be seen. For gluing this foliage on, you're going to need a light spray glue. There are a number of different manufacturers on the market, and I'm going to be using this from War World Scenics. It's static grass layering spray, and any glue that's retailed for undertaking this task from any manufacturer will be equally good for the task. As a money-saving tip, you can even use very inexpensive firm hold hairspray. Hairspray itself is just another light spray glue, and actually it's really useful for scenic work such as this. It's also available from a number of stores that open all night, so you'll never run out of spray glue again. What I like to do is make a little makeshift booth here out of an old cardboard box. Something that's arrived in the post as packaging is perfect for this. It just stops your work area from getting messed up with any of this ground foam that should stray right through the tree and end up on the bottom. It also means that this can be recycled and used again. First of all, what I'm going to do is just gently mist the tree armature using the spray adhesive I've chosen. Then it's a case of choosing the appropriate scenic foam, and then we're just going to very, very carefully sprinkle that through the branches. Pick up the armature and make sure you get it from all directions. I'm going to be using a second colour in a moment. I've chosen a dark green, again equally fine. We mist over again with the spray glue. And you can see the importance of it being something that doesn't clog the branches. And then we just put a sprinkling of this onto the tree, and you can see that sticking to those really fine branches. And this looks like real leaves, and that's exactly what we're going for here. Trees are generally never a complete single colour. There's always an organic mix of slightly different shades. Don't be tempted to overdo this. Real trees contain a lot of empty space and aren't necessarily as full-leafed as you might think in your imagination that they are. And there we have it, the final tree. If you're worried about any of the ground foam just being a little bit loose, you can always blast over once more with that spray adhesive. What we can do now is either transfer it directly to the model, or if you're building up a number of these, it's really easy to just find a scrap piece of foam and spike these trees into it. And this way you can make quite a lot of these trees and store them safely, pending putting them onto your layout. And that way you can have quite a few of them ready to hand at any point during your modelling. It also means that you can take some time either in front of the TV, listening to some music, or anything like that to just utilise those spare minutes. When it comes to fitting them into the landscape, it couldn't be easier. I use something like an old screwdriver, such as this is ideal, and with a small hammer, I just create a hole for the tree to go into. Utilising a little bit of glue in the hole, and then choosing one of our trees, it's just simply a case of orientating it and then gently fitting it down into the hole. I thought this was a great opportunity to show you 3 different types of trees that we can make all together in one location, so you can see the difference between them. This is the tree that we've just made. You can see that the seafoam really does give that light, airy look, but with that plastic trunk inside, we get the best of both worlds. Next to it, this is a metal armature tree that's been made up and then coated with PVA glue, and a slightly coarser scatter has then been pushed into the glue, again we have quite an effective looking tree, and you could imagine these two sitting next to each other really quite comfortably, representing different species of tree. The third tree that's visible down there is one that's made purely using that seagrass method, where we just pick a piece of seagrass that looks about right to represent a tree, and then we spray it with adhesive and add some of that ground foam scatter. Personally, I really like this method that we've just utilised here, and in terms of ease of construction, we don't have to make that twisted wire core, which I know a lot of people find quite tedious and difficult from an artistic standpoint to get right. This method is so accessible, and with kits available that have all of the materials that you need to make these trees on the market from companies such as War World Scenics, it really is easy. You can of course also buy the materials to make these separately and make them however way you choose. But certainly, if you follow this simple and easy guide, you can't go wrong. Well, I hope you really found today's video informative, and as you saw there, we get some great results from this kit from War World Scenics. This was my first attempt, and actually I found it quite easy and straightforward. I'm really pleased with how these seafoam trees have turned out, because historically, whilst I have enjoyed using seafoam, the results haven't always been as good or as resilient as I would have hoped. And actually, looking at the results I've got here, I think a lot of those old seafoam trees might find themselves recycled into trees such as these. I'd really love to hear from you in the comments section down below. Is this a product that you've given a go to? How good were your results? And did you find it as easy as I did? I'd also love to hear from you if you got any tips for improving the process, or maybe there's something that I did that you thought I could have done better. I'd love to hear from you in the comments section, and it's a great way that you can actually learn from other modelers too about their experiences by browsing through those comments. Please also consider tickling the like button, sharing this video and subscribing. And we've got a URL link down below in the description box that takes you to War World Scenics to be able to browse their full range, and in particular these all new tree kits that really do make making trees so easy. You can also head on over to Patreon and help support the channel to make the videos that you want to see, with a whole host of tiers of rewards available. But until next time, this is me, Jenny Kirk, saying you take great care of yourself. Happy modelling, bye for now. Today's video comes in association with Trainomatic, makers of DCT decoders and accessories that are designed by enthusiasts for enthusiasts. Find the full range available to order now at tramfabrique.co.uk. Support also comes from TMC, the Model Centre. Check out their comprehensive and fully stocked website at themodelcentre.com. For project ideas, why not look at their airbrush offers at the link in the description and have a go at creating your own weathering and graffiti masterpieces. It couldn't be simpler. I'd like to send out a huge thanks to everybody who supports me on Patreon, and an extra special huge thanks goes out to Anthony Kidson, Offshore Allen, Michael Lockie, Helen Sink, Gary Lewis, David Quinn, Sparky107107, George Botterini, Chris Moss, Robert Steers, Sam Yates, Dale Williams, John N from NC, NYMRish, Jonathan Foster, Peter, Clifford Ison, Larry W. Grant, NI Railways 4000 class, Ian Coulson, Alan Dickerson, Eddie Popper, Karen Nichol, Medwin Williams, Crossways Point Junction, 3B Rail, and Jennifer Garrett. Thank you. Without you guys, I couldn't do this.